Then it is time for us to just move on to something that is very serious that we are focusing on in the month of April right here on Maranatha Drive. Is the issue of autism. And I'm delighted that the Zekwande Foundation, which was started and conceptualized by Zekwande Mathenjwa in the year 2020, to, among other things, assist non-speaking autistic who are still trapped in their own bodies and make the world see non-speaking autistic as competent, improve representation of autistic people in autism advocacy work, people support for non-speaking autistic who do not have access to educational facilities and communication mechanisms, reduce stigma around non-speaking autism, amongst many other things that they get to do. I'm delighted to be speaking to Madam Irene Mathenjwa, who is joining me on the telephone line. Always a pleasure to just connect with you, Madam. Welcome to Maranatha Drive.
Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon to your listeners, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed for just joining us. And now, for those that may not be in appreciation of what autism is all about, particularly the one that affects our speeches, please educate us.
Thank you very much. As I said earlier on, my name is Irene Mathenjwa, and I'm the mother to Zekwande Mathenjwa, who is the president of Zekwande Foundation. Now, autism, and in particular non-speaking autism, is the one that affects the non-speakers in a way that they cannot communicate or express themselves. So they're still in the spectrum of autism. So you have got others that can communicate, you have got others that cannot communicate. So in this bunch that we are talking about is the non-speakers that cannot express themselves. And in this area, they use what we call spelling to communicate. In a sense, they use a letter board, a 26-letter board, which is a normal stencil with your letters A to Z, and they will point at those letters and make a word, and in such a way then begin to communicate. So they work basically with what we call a communication and regulation partner. So the regulation partner will be there also assisting the non-speaker as they point to the letters and make their way to communicate with society.
Right. So please educate me. So when you say that they are non-speaking, so they can't verbalize like you and I are speaking right now, right?
Absolutely. They really do not like the word verbalized because we're dealing with a community of highly intelligent people,
yes,
and so on. So they prefer like non-speaking, but indeed, so they cannot, so there's no words coming out of their mouth basically, but that doesn't mean that they are deaf. So they still hear everything that you say. They follow everything that you say, but the problem is when they're supposed to communicate back to you. And in this case, I just need to indicate that Zekwande says it's a body-mind disconnect. So
right,
he says the body is disconnected to the mind. So the mind is functioning, and like many other non-speakers, as they say,
sure,
they say the functioning of the brain is absolutely right. It's perfect. There's absolutely nothing wrong. But then their bodies are just failing them by not following the functioning of the brain.
So there's that disconnect, basically.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now I want you to just be patient with me because I've called you here so that you can educate the family,
yeah,
right?
Yes.
So please educate me. Why would it be offensive for me to use the word verbalize, and why the correct word that you use is non-speaking? Please educate me just on that level.
Okay, thank you very much. So firstly, let me say this is not me speaking. These are the non-autistics speaking when they say that they do not prefer the word verbal because they do have the vocabulary. You hear what I'm saying?
Right,
so
right.
They argue themselves, and this is a whole bunch of the non-autistics. You speak about Adash, Listedi, Stephanie Aka, Nicholas. So they say, no, don't refer to us as non-verbal because we have the vocabulary, we have got those words, we have got the language.
I see.
The problem is that we cannot express, so we better be called non-speaking rather than non-verbal. And
right,
it's them who are talking, not me.
Aha, you see, I got you now.
Yes.
Right. So we need to understand things from their perspective because
yes,
we may be interpreting that as non-verbal when indeed they are verbalizing whatever they are verbalizing in
yes,
their way of communicating that which
yes,
they are communicating. I got you right there. Right. So here's another important issue which you've touched on already. Our assumption when people have got such conditions is that there is something wrong with their brains, or there's something missing in there. Please educate us on the importance and just re-emphasize the fact that these are people that can still apply their minds. These are thinkers. These are people that apply their minds on that which is around them and formulate ideas and stuff like that. How important for society for society to understand that?
Look, firstly, we're dealing, and again, this is a group of people who also don't want to be referred as kind of like disabled, if you like, although
right.
So it's very important, firstly, to understand that autism exists. Autism is not curable. Let's not beat about the bush and so on.
Right.
Research has shown over years and so on. And we need, I think, as a society, to just accept that we are going to be diverse in a way that we exist in the world, and to accept them.
True.
And therefore, it's very important that we accept that there is a society of those that are going to be non-speaking.
Right, and different from us, from all of the rest of us, yes.
Exactly.
Right.
But very important is also to reach out, I think, to our communities, and I'm not only talking about the rural and impoverished communities where access to education and all these things do not reach as easy as maybe some in the urban areas. So the assumption that we make immediately is that a person has got a mental issue, and therefore the way we treat them, it's what triggers the anger and the frustration in them.
I see.
So you find most autistic parents will tell you that my child won't listen, my child will fight. And then because autism is a spectrum kind of condition, you have got those that are less kind of like display anger, and those that are quieter. So depending really, there's no formula for this. So others, because of the way we treat them, they react in a much angry way, much, and that's frustration. It's not anger, it's not mental disability,
Right.
It's none of what we think. It's just the frustration. So you imagine yourself if somebody ties your hand, closes your lips, closes your ears, closes your eyes, everything else, then you still have to communicate.
Yeah.
You know, the only way to express yourself is like anger and those kinds, because nobody hears you, nobody believes in you, nobody, and also one thing very important, they don't want to be disrespected. They really want to be respected. They want to be seen.
So what would formulate disrespect from them? Besides the points that perhaps you sort of speak down on them or treat them like they have no brains and stuff like that. So what will be disrespectful to people living with this condition?
Well, largely, it's those are the first reactions. So I would emphasize those, because when you meet a person, firstly, you want to hear whether they can express themselves. I mean, in a normal situation, that's what we do. We look at you. Do you give me eye contact? Then they have got the repetitive behavior sometimes, which my son calls stimming, and he says it just it gives him a little bit of comfort in his body and so on. So there are quite a lot of those things where then we tend to speak on the side, and they see that. And they pick up that the vibe is not good, and they become really uncomfortable in that space.
All right. So I want us now to help a parent who is living with a child with autism, particularly perhaps who is non-speaking. How do I empower my child to be able to sort of create this wall? Okay, I'm thinking as I am formulating this question, to create this wall that you are in a world that is full of unkind people. Therefore, you will need to build this kind of wall that will say, what you think about me does not matter. How do I train my child to be that tough mentally, to say, you'll come across people who will say all these things that you've described to me, talking on the side, demeaning, and how do I then train my child to be mentally strong, that they're able then to face up to such demeaning comments as well as reactions?
It's a bit of a difficult question, I must say, in the sense that I think these people are created by God, okay?
Yes.
And this is really me just speaking. I think in the manner in which He created them, all of them that I've come across, as I've given you names, like Lisedi Nicholas, these are tough-willed people. I mean, they don't need to be taught like ABC. They don't need to be taught 1, 2, 3. It just comes automatic to them. And I'm speaking from the experience of the non-speaking autistics that I've come across. They are strong-willed, as I said. They are very tough in their position. in their minds and how they communicate themselves and so on. But as a parent, I think first and foremost, you have to accept that your child is autistic and is non-speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, you have to show them love. Of everything, you have to show them acceptance and love. But the most important here then becomes the communication method, which is the spelling to communicate.
Sure.
So, and this is what we're driving, that as many of these children as possible should get onto this spelling to communicate, so that they are able to express themselves. And in that expression of themselves, this is where you begin to pick up how strong-willed they are.
Sure.
All of them equal. I wouldn't say one child is better than the other. All of them, they're very strong-willed. They are very determined people, very matured, very empathetic, very loving, very straightforward in the manner in which they communicate,
right,
and want the world to be treated. So I think it comes with them. As I said, they were created by God.
Sure.
By and large, they're just different from us. I think it comes with them. But when you expose them to the spelling to communicate, and I think that for me that is the key, then you give them the opportunity to thrive and to communicate and to really show that we are different from you, but trust me, we have got so much to offer to the society.
When there is so much to offer to the world, surely we need to get to the level where we adjust accordingly and meet their needs. Would you say that perhaps, perhaps let me just throw this question as an empowerment question. How can we best empower our churches, for instance, and our general communities and members of families to be able to learn how to better communicate with non-speaking autistic individuals?
Okay, I think the family unit, the neighborhood, the community, similarly the church and other sectors of the society are very important to get to know about autism. So we need to reach out as much as possible. We need to take this non-speaking autistics to that environment. The problem that we're struggling with is many parents who are struggling to interact with their children, they tend then to lock them up, not expose them because of many things. It's resentment, it's guilt, and so all those kind of things and so on. So I think I would like to say to parents, please know that you are in the company of somebody that is very, very special. Take the kids out. Let's not be ashamed. Let's educate the society. Let's partner also with the church, which is a very important sector of the society, in also trying to help parents to live with with children that has got autism, but the society and many others. So parents, let's get out, let's educate, let's interact as much as possible, and it comes with that love and acceptance.
Right, I want to speak to Zekwande's mom right now. Can I get her?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to speak to Zekwande's mom.
Yes.
How has it been for you to be a mom to Zekwande?
My God, it has been difficult, extremely difficult. And let me start with the difficult part, and then we can go to the rewarding experience.
Sure.
So the difficult part is every parent wants a child. They've got dreams in their child. You want to see your child in a uniform, and then suddenly they call you, and then they tell you at the nursery school that something might be wrong with your son. Go and see a pediatric neurologist, and so on and so on. You go there, and in my experience and our experience as a family with my partner, my husband, we got there, and the doctor just told us your child is autistic. His future is finished, so it ends here. So prepare for a life of institutionalization, which is a home where you go and drop the kid. And that's how it was. We were taught. So your life gets shattered. And then what did we do? So we did quite a number of things, and we were really trying as a family. We went for chelation, which is the removal of your heavy metals in the body. We did gluten, casein, and sugar-free diet because we wanted him to be not affected by those things. We did stem cell therapy. We did ABA, we did hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and all of those we had hoped that he will communicate, he will be fine. And then the frustration piles up as the bills also go up, and so on and so on.
Can you imagine?
And at some point we sat down and we said we might consider really selling our house if it means that we are going to find lasting solution for him, because at some point as parent you know that you're going to leave this earth and you're going to leave this child. So it's a very difficult situation to navigate. Then eventually Zekwande is working with autistic therapist, Nicola Soa, who introduced the spelling to communicate in South Africa. Then she calls us and says, guys, here is something that we need to try and see whether it cannot work. Boom, on the day they give him the stencil. They start asking him very difficult questions, and I told them, I said, wait a minute, my son has not been to like a proper school where they learn about words. There he just flourishes. He starts typing, and I was sitting there and I was just crying.
What?
I was sitting there.
Sure.
I was just crying because I was like, no. You must. Maybe we need to start teaching him, the letters like we do in a normal A, B, R book and those kind of things.
Right.
And then the lady just said to me, Irene, presume competence, because this is what we have seen when we work with non-speaking autistics. He just went and answered the most difficult and complex. But the most rewarding for me is the fact that God has put us in this space to educate the world, to open the world to another avenue around disability, if we like to say. These are people that we live with. These are people who have got so much to offer to the community, to the society, in terms of building the nation and really contributing to the world. That is the most rewarding. But also, I think what saddens me as a parent is when I still engage with other parents, and I know very well where I come from, in the most rural and impoverished society, that those kids, they are still not being treated well. And that worries the other non-speaking autistics. That's what worries them, that their fellow non-speakers are not treated well. They're not enjoying the privilege of and the liberation of communication. So I am happy, but I would want to see as much as possible many non-speaking autistics speaking for themselves rather than having Irene being here and being the one speaking.
Listen, I would rather have Irene speaking to me all day long. I've enjoyed my chat with you. You have empowered me. But immediately when I then wanted to speak to Irene, the mother of Zekwande, I just saw you. It was just melting. I could just sense love from this other end of the microphone. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. Just one more thing that you can do for me, then you can go about your business. If Zekwande is listening to Maranatha Drive and listening to this conversation right now, what's the one thing that you want to tell him in front of these thousands of people who are listening?
We normally take the podcast and we're getting to listen. It's a pity I'm not with him right now and so on.
Sure.
And I think he's most proud when we do this kind of work, because it just it's his vision, actually. It's what he really wants to achieve. But I'm definitely just to tell him that today we did one thing good on behalf of the Zekwande Foundation, on behalf of the non-speaking autistics, most important, to reach out to the church and the place of love, the place of hope, and to tell parents, community, that there is hope out there for non-speakers. And if we can get as many non-speakers as possible to willing to communicate, I think he will be extremely delighted if I told him.
I think he'll be very pleased that you represented him well, as well as other non-speakers. You've done extremely well. Thank you so much, Irene, for just making time to just educate us around autism, especially non-speaking autism. And I just want to take my hat off, literally, for those who know me. I know I'm always wearing my caps. I love them. So I'm taking my cap right now off, and I'm saluting the president, Zekwande Mathenjwa, and for the great work that he's doing. We're truly proud. And please feel free, Zekwande, to make this platform your platform, so that we can educate more, so that we can empower more, so that people can know what your world is like, and so that we can then communicate through this platform that world to the entire world. Thank you so much, Irene, and much love to the entire community of non-speakers. Yes.